right, so I want to talk about this. Stephen A. Smith came out saying he had a conversation with Isiah Thomas, one of the greatest point guards of all time from the bad boys of the Detroit Pistons back in the day. If you're not as old as me, you probably never got a chance to see them play and rough up Michael Jordan, and they were rough. They're Detroit, the bad boys, man. Now, a lot of people argue back in those late 80s, whatever the case may be, was that real basketball? Motherfuckers just punching people, coming down the lane, you're just literally clotheslining people. Is that true basketball? I don't know. That's an argument on another video. But I guess what Isiah Thomas was saying, like, Steph Curry's the greatest shooter of all time. That's awesome. Great compliment he gave to Steph Curry. But he said Steph Curry probably wouldn't average 18 points if he was playing in the late 80s or in his era of basketball. Well, I mean, he has a right to his opinion. I think, I have a right to my opinion. I think Steph Curry would probably average over 20 points a game. Easily or not, I don't know. Because, Isiah Thomas saying how they would rough him up, they would be completely physical with him. If he came down the lane, they would, completely demolish Steph Curry. Now, that's a possibility. We'll never get a chance to see it. However, I think this is the thing. I had a video about this, before. Basketball players adapt. Great basketball players adapt to their era, and they adapt to how the rules are and how officiating is. I think Steph Curry would definitely have adapted. You really think that he's going to keep getting the fucking demolished going down the lane? He may have changed his gameplay. He would change if he was playing that era. He would know better. He's a smarter guy than you think. I think he would change the fact of how he was getting played on defense. You have to keep in mind, these players, they play and they adapt to how the rules and how the refereeing has called in that certain situation. That's like saying Isiah Thomas would fucking suck in this day and age. And the reason being is because he couldn't shoot the three very well. Every point guard has to be a great three-point shooter right now. You have to. You have to be a great three-point shooter. If you're a shooting guard period, you have to be able to shoot the ball. So that would be like he would, he wouldn't even be an all-star because he couldn't barely shoot the three above 30%. But I think this is the thing. In my opinion, I think Isiah Thomas, if he was playing in this day and age, he would focus a little bit more on three-point and increase his percentage and become a better. And the reason being because he's one of the GOATs, one of the greats. And that's why I think Steph Curry is one of the GOATs, one of the greats, and he would have adapted his game back then. Now, you guys got to keep in mind, Steph Curry's still what, like 6'3"? He's still a big, a guard in a sense. So people keep saying like, oh, he would get beat up and all this shit. And everybody always says, this is the thing, this is from the new school, old school cast, like they will never be able to survive in my era. I'm telling you, people adapt, athletes adapt, especially the greatest athletes out there. They adapt to how the situation, how the era is being called and what is required them to become great. So that's my thoughts on that. I believe all the greats would be able to adapt in any era. You can't say that they would not be successful in your era just because your era was different. That's just, like I just said, all these athletes in their era became great is because they were able to adapt the way they played the game to make sure that they were successful. Plain and simple. Like I said, Jordan would have adapted to be more of a three-point shooter if he played in this era because that was what would be required him to be great. Same thing with LeBron James. If he was playing in the tougher era back in the 80s, the 90s, he would have adapted his game and be more physical. I think he would have been just fine. A lot of people were like, oh, he can't take the punishment. Back in that era, that's what's required for you to be great. He would have adapted. I think all of these top tier guys would be able to adapt. And that is the biggest thing that people keep bitching and whining, thinking their era is the best. No era is the best. The best athletes made that era the best for that situation, if you can kind of understand what I'm saying. So that's my thoughts. I ain't a professional. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. I just love this shit. So Hey, if you guys like this shit, make sure you subscribe.